my god. You're so awesome, Lawrence Lim.
It's Lawrence Lim with the W.
Wesley approaches Cody, warning him to be more cautious with his shooting, fearing stray bullets might hit someone. However, Cody, who has a strained relationship with Wesley, defends himself by saying he's just preparing for the night. As a former Army captain, Wesley also has a task to work in a laboratory that evening. Before leaving, he reminds his sister-in-law not to open the door for anyone. He comforts his niece, Emma, by sharing stories of her father's bravery and encouraging her to stay strong for the night ahead. As the evening approaches, Wesley reflects on memories of his late brother. Lucy urges him to prepare for his duty, assuring him that the world needs him for the critical experiment. Reluctantly, Wesley bids farewell and leaves. Nine hours before the super full moon, Dr. James delivers a speech in front of a government laboratory. He introduces his team, which includes a biologist named Evan, a woman named Amy, and Wesley. Dr. James explains that the supermoon can trigger rapid DNA mutations. To combat this, they have developed a liquid called Moonveil, which they hope will prevent these mutations. Dr. James and his team express hope that tonight's experiment will successfully save millions of lives. As night falls, the research team enters the laboratory. Test subject number 3, a man named Miles, arrives at the facility, with Amy observing him from the control room. Unbeknownst to others, Miles is Amy's boyfriend, who volunteered for the study after having turned into a werewolf during the super full moon the previous year. A woman named Dr. Vasquez reassures Amy to stay calm, emphasizing that all necessary safety measures have been implemented. Miles is escorted into the isolation chamber as the countdown begins. 30 minutes until the laboratory's protective shield opens. Wesley, dressed in protective gear, encourages Evan, who appears nervous. Once everything is ready, the team is sprayed with the protective formula before entering the experiment area. Inside the laboratory, 4 test subjects are present. The staff ensures that the Moonveil liquid is maintained at a stable temperature. The protective solution is administered to all test subjects, including Miles. With only 5 minutes remaining before the super full moon reaches its peak, the team begins spraying the Moonveil formula onto the subjects.
Chin up, chin up. Security be ready. Screen them up, guys, screen them up.
Dr. James instructs the team to monitor and record how long the formula remains effective. Suddenly, one of the test subjects becomes anxious and wants to withdraw from the experiment. However, the test cannot be canceled due to the limited time, and administering a sedative is not an option, as it could interfere with the results. As the super full moon reaches its zenith, the laboratory's protective shield is lifted. The Moonveil formula appears successful, as none of the test subjects undergo any transformations. The team breathes a sigh of relief, grateful that everyone remains in their normal state. Dr. James promptly orders blood samples to be taken to confirm the absence of mutations. Meanwhile, outside the laboratory, Cody is seen preparing for the arrival of werewolves. Suddenly, he hears a wolf's howl from inside his house. Reagan, on the other hand, is searching for her mother but receives no response. Back in the laboratory, Dr. James enters the experiment room to administer additional protective formula. Initial blood tests show no abnormalities. However, 1 hour after the formula's application, anomalies begin to appear in the test subjects. The team discovers that the formula is only effective for 1 hour, raising alarm among the researchers. They attempt to spray the formula again, but it's too late. The test subjects begin transforming into werewolves. Dr. Vasquez tries to close the laboratory's protective shield, but the mechanism malfunctions, leaving it partially open. All 4 test subjects fully transform into werewolves. Dr. Vasquez immediately orders everyone to evacuate. However, Dr. James is exposed to the super full moonlight through a tear in his protective suit, causing him to transform into a werewolf as well. In his new form, Dr. James attacks Evan, inflicting severe injuries. Meanwhile, Wesley manages to secure the last remaining bottle of Moonvale formula. As Dr. James wreaks havoc, Wesley carries the injured Evan out of the lab. The werewolves escape the isolation chamber and roam free. Outside the laboratory, Amy encounters Wesley and the gravely injured Evan. She attempts to open the security doors, but the system has failed. Together, they manually open the doors, trapping the werewolves inside the lab. At Cody's house, he spots a werewolf climbing a tree to bypass his gate. Lucy, monitoring through the CCTV, watches in horror as the werewolf attacks Cody's home. Back at the laboratory, Amy and Wesley try to save Evan, but his injuries prove fatal. Panicked, Amy insists on checking on Miles, but Wesley forbids it, explaining that Miles is already transformed into a werewolf. Wesley urges Amy to stay calm and remain inside the lab to avoid exposure to the super full moonlight. Aware of the growing danger in the lab, Wesley points out that they still have the Moonvale formula, which offers an hour of protection. Elsewhere, the werewolf outside Cody's home picks up an object. Cody watches as the werewolf hurls an old refrigerator at his window, breaking it and allowing the super full moonlight to flood in. Exposed, Cody transforms into a werewolf. In the laboratory, Amy and Wesley don protective suits designed to shield against moonlight, arm themselves, and apply protective eye drops and the Moonvale formula to their bodies. They leave the lab, prepared to confront the werewolves. Escaping in a vehicle, they receive a call from Lucy, who warns Wesley that Cody may have been attacked. Wesley advises Lucy to stay quiet and avoid attracting attention from the werewolves. Suddenly, as Wesley and Amy drive, their car crashes, leaving them vulnerable. However, Lucy hears Reagan's voice outside the house. Despite Wesley's earlier warning not to open the door, Lucy sees Reagan standing outside the gate, wrapped in a blanket to shield herself from the super full moonlight. Determined to help, Lucy approaches, but a werewolf suddenly attacks Reagan outside. Meanwhile, Wesley and Amy, still trapped in the burning car, regain consciousness and escape the vehicle. They quickly head toward Lucy's house. At Lucy's home, she discovers that the werewolf who killed Reagan is Cody, now fully transformed. Cody gruesomely pins Reagan's body against the electrified fence. Horrified, Lucy instructs Emma to hide. Once Emma is secure, Lucy returns to the CCTV monitors to track the werewolf's movements. Using the electrified fence coated with the protective formula, Lucy begins targeting the creatures outside. Elsewhere, Wesley and Amy realize that the Moonvale formula they applied is nearing its 1-hour limit. Their alarm beeps, inadvertently attracting the attention of nearby werewolves. Forced to flee, they head toward an old church, but the werewolves relentlessly pursue them. Eventually, they find shelter in an abandoned store. To their relief, the werewolves are unable to enter the building. However, the two are soon confronted by a group of survivors who have turned the store into a makeshift base. The group reveals they are scientists who had been involved in a prior lab incident and have been stranded ever since. They are merely trying to survive long enough to use a tunnel system to reunite with their families. The group's leader agrees to guide Wesley and Amy to the tunnel. Once escorted to the basement, Wesley and Amy proceed through the passage until they encounter a locked gate. As Wesley prepares to shoot the lock, they spot werewolves approaching from behind. Forced to abandon the gate, they run and eventually find another exit. However, Wesley stops Amy, explaining that they need to reapply the Moonvale formula. The formula is overheated and must be cooled before use. They improvise by using a tarp to shield themselves from the moonlight as they make their way toward a nearby supermarket in search of refrigeration. Upon arriving at the supermarket, Wesley immediately places the Moonvale formula in a refrigerator. He and Amy anxiously wait, unsure of what will happen next, hoping the supermoon phenomenon will soon end. Wesley reflects on how his past obsession with work caused him to neglect his family and admits that now, his sole focus is protecting his late brother's family. As Amy checks the formula and tries to find ways to maintain its cooling temperature, Wesley hears a commotion. Investigating the noise, he finds a young boy eating in front of the refrigerator. To Wesley's horror, the boy has transformed into a werewolf. Meanwhile, at Lucy's house, the werewolves begin gathering at the gates. Unbeknownst to Lucy, the creatures have managed to disable all her CCTV cameras. They attempt to bring down the electrified fence. Hearing the commotion, Lucy arms herself to defend her home. She and Emma check the remaining functional CCTV feed and see one of the werewolves trying to topple the power pole outside the fence. When the power goes out, the werewolves breach the property without resistance. Lucy and Emma quickly set up lights around the house to keep the creatures at bay. Lucy readies her weapon and warns any intruder not to come closer. One of the werewolves is seen moving across the rooftop. Shortly after, one of Wesley's traps is triggered, injuring a werewolf. Elsewhere, Wesley and Amy observe a team of exterminators fighting off a group of werewolves. The exterminators manage to push back the creatures with their coordinated attacks. Seeing an opportunity, Wesley and Amy emerge from hiding. However, the exterminators immediately point their weapons at them. Wesley explains that they are protected by the Moonveil formula, but the team remains suspicious. Their focus on Wesley and Amy leaves them vulnerable, and the werewolves launch another attack. Wesley and Amy are forced to retreat back into hiding. Amy insists they cannot keep running and proposes a plan to distract the werewolves. She steps out and loudly calls to draw their attention. The creatures begin converging on her location. As the werewolves close in, Wesley gets into a vehicle, intending to rescue Amy. However, when he gets out to call for her, Amy is gone. Heartbroken, Wesley gets back into the car and continues his journey toward Lucy's house, his determination to protect his family unwavering. At home, Lucy instructs Emma to hide while she prepares a shotgun for defense. When she runs out of ammunition, Lucy grabs kitchen utensils as makeshift weapons and hands one to Emma for protection. As the werewolves search the house and enter their room, Lucy and Emma hide, with Lucy covering Emma's mouth to silence her. Meanwhile, the sound of a car horn echoes outside. It's Wesley, who has arrived at Lucy's house. The werewolves on the street turn their attention to the vehicle, and Wesley swiftly drives through, hitting them one by one.
You motherfucker!
Once the outside threat subsides, Lucy decides to check the situation. Feeling momentarily safe, she reassures Emma and hides her in a closet. Lucy herself hides behind the door, gripping an axe in preparation for the werewolves that might enter. Wesley manages to get inside the house, reuniting with Lucy and Emma. He asks Lucy for a shotgun, but she informs him that all the bullets are gone. At that moment, they hear Cody's growl. He is still alive. Wesley instructs Lucy and Emma to hide. Spotting a hole in the roof, Wesley starts devising a plan. Outside, Cody moves the car blocking his path. Wesley approaches Lucy and Emma to give them his watch, explaining that it will count down the 15 minutes left until sunrise. After saying goodbye, Wesley steps outside to confront Cody. Lucy struggles to let her brother-in-law go, but understands his resolve. Wesley faces Cody, who awaits him outside. Wesley admits he never liked Cody. With his Moonveil formula depleted, Wesley looks up at the moon, resigning himself to transform into a werewolf. Once the transformation is complete, Wesley charges at Cody, and an intense battle ensues. The fight is fierce, but Wesley ultimately defeats Cody with a devastating blow, eliminating him for good. Inside, Lucy hides Emma in the closet again. While searching for a weapon, she finds a single bullet beneath the floorboards. Reloading the shotgun, Lucy braces herself as Wesley, now in werewolf form, approaches the house. She stands at the doorway, calling out to Wesley in an attempt to bring him back to his senses. However, Wesley charges at the wall behind her, attempting to break through. Lucy pleads with him, showing him a family photo and urging him to remember who he is. Seeing the photo, Wesley hesitates and slowly approaches. Lucy glances at the watch and realizes the sun is rising. As daylight breaks, Wesley reverts to his human form. Emma emerges from the closet with a relieved smile, seeing her uncle return to normal. Lucy breathes a sigh of relief, knowing they have survived the perilous night. The story concludes with the three of them standing together, having endured a night of unimaginable danger. And this is the end of this story.
I heard a rumor through the grapevine so bold. Lawrence Lim got a million stories untold. From green jokes, conspiracies, and edits with flair. You gotta follow him, baby, if you dare. Your feet feels empty without his magic touch. He got the blues and the laughs that you crave so much. With a click and a follow, you'll find some relief. Lawrence Lim's social media, a digital belief. Click, subscribe, don't miss a trick. Now, hey, leave your worries and come on, click today. Lawrence Lim's got the content right in line. Follow him now.